We are here today with KBS PGI irons. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it. I'd love for you to make a comment in the comment section to let us know which KBS iron shaft you're most familiar with or suits your game the best. In this case, we have the Players Graphite Iron. The entire design here is intended to mimic that steel experience between dispersion and control. PGI comes in, as you can see, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100 grams. This is clearly different from some of their steel counterparts in that these are all lighter weights. And I think the secondary story here not only is are we looking at graphite that mimics steel, but we're also looking at it in a lighter weight that supports a lot of golfers who are moving into that lighter weight profile. There's not much more else to say from the overhead view, so what we'll do now is take you into the hitting bay, hit a few shots, built up with a 7-iron I've had a lot of fun with, and we'll tell you more about that shortly, to give you an idea what we're seeing from a flight results, dispersion perspective, and basically how it holds up. Here in the hitting bay in the THP Tech Studio with the KBS Players Graphite Iron, or PGI. There's a lot to talk about here, but during that I'm going to hit some shots and see my thoughts overall on this new graphite iron shaft. That's a great way to get started. I am curious to know, for you folks at home, if you've experienced KBS in general, whether it's through steel or graphite. I've only experienced KBS personally a couple times from a graphite perspective. However, I've been a long-standing user of their Tour V steel shafts. Looking at this, getting a little bit of the presentation, the feedback in the hands, it definitely has that nice load profile you want. Timing for me is very good. Now this is the 100 gram. They come in a variety of weights going from 50 all the way up to 110 gram increments. And that is great because I know a lot of players out there have a specific weight that works really well for them. Kind of hung that one out a little bit to the right. We are hitting the Tour Edge C721 iron. We've actually hit it in the bay previously. There's a video we will link you to. A really fun iron to hit, a nice pairing here. I do want to turn a couple over, make sure we get one that has a little bit of a draw to it. I did leave that one out a little bit to the right. So let's go ahead and try and square one up here so we can talk a little bit more about the feel here in the PGI 100. There we go, perfect. I like the control it has. It doesn't feel overly abrasive at the top of the swing. As I'm driving through into the ball, it does have that nice sort of load profile. I know it's a slippery slope when you start to talk about the different sorts of feel and lag, and some people would say shuddering or anything like that. I'm not seeing anything significantly concerning as it relates to that, but I'm also probably not the guy who's going to make any of those big claims in hopes that you go and hit it for yourself and experience it. So far, I really enjoy it. It's very pleasing to hit. That was timed very, very well for me. I have been a long-standing user of KBS, as I've mentioned. I love the feedback I just got off that. I really haven't talked about numbers yet, so I definitely want to do that. We had about 6,000 RPMs a spin, which is more or less, oddly enough, what I look for in my 7-iron, especially for how high I hit the ball. Looking at the data a little bit, 186 carries great for me. Peak height is a little bit higher than I'm used to seeing. That's great. Just taking a quick little look more here. Ball speed's a big one, 131, and I know that's not the first time we've seen it, but we've also known about these heads. They are sort of ball speed monsters, So to have a shaft that can meet the similar expectations, and in this case, being the design, allow that promotion of flight with the lower spin, for me is pretty much just going to be crazy good distance with effectively target practice as I land on the green with that great descent angle. So let's hit one more. I'm glad I hit another one a little bit to the left. We're gonna see a little bit of that reduction in spin. I also kind of hammered that ball at over 200 yards of carry. I went at that intentionally. I know there's talk about it out there. Graphite's not gonna work for me. I'm a steel shafted guy through and through. I'm here to tell you that this shaft, it held up to about as hard of a swing as I'm gonna take with a 7-iron. And I do put a pretty good speed move on the ball. So no arguments there, 133.7. This pairing is pretty legit. I wanna go into the table view here and talk a bit about what we've seen, how close the averages are, and then maybe finish up the video there. So we'll see you over. Here we are on table view. In past videos in THP TV, we have left all swings on. I thought, in fairness to everyone out there, I want to talk more recently about standard deviation. And in doing so, I really think it's important to eliminate one strike in just about every set we've run. In this case, it was one that it was relatively poor, went a little bit far to the right, obviously 22 yards offline. So I've disabled that because I want to talk about consistency. You know, obviously we're playing with an iron that's built for performance from distance and forgiveness. I really like the idea that after this many strikes, we can be as tight as we are with only 2 mile an hour of ball speed on a 7-iron apart from each other. I think the KBS shaft, the PGI, has allowed that performance to really shine through. I could go after it as hard as I wanted to and also be as smooth as I wanted to. And the variances just aren't that big. We do have some carry numbers of difference. I did leave my hard pull, my 17-yard pull draw on there. I know it's a little bit different at 133.7 with 201 yards of carry, but I think that's really telling. I think when you get out there and experience these graphite iron shafts, because KBS comes out and says basically, this is the graphite experience you want that relates closely to steel, that you'll find that same sort of performance thing I'm getting here. Tight tolerances in side spin, tight tolerances in descent and peak, carries a tiny bit different. I'm very satisfied with this hitting session with PGI. I think from my perspective, it's definitely something I would consider putting into play. I want to know your thoughts. I'm curious to know, once again, if you've gone out and hit KBS and if you have expectations when you go to hit the Players Graphite Iron. Let us know in the comment section below and like the video if you enjoyed what we provided to you today.